This is going to be video 1 of me pulling the engine. So I'm going to show how to pull dual Solex carburetors and the linkage. Make sure you check out the rest of the videos in the series and the first video that I did just to kind of explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So here we go. The first thing that needs to happen is the deck lid has to come off just to give you some room to work. So make sure you mark it before you pull it off, and then we'll start pulling everything else. Next, air cleaners come off. I like to put the nut and washer right here, that won't focus, back on the thread so I don't lose them. One thing to note is that every one of these engines is probably a little bit different. So for instance, I have these raised air cleaner holders and they have screws in them, Phillips head screws. Yours may have bolts, yours may not have any. It's probably just because these cars are really old and they've been worked on for a long time. And I don't know, it just adds to the adventure of working on them, not knowing what you're gonna get every time. These only need to be loosened on my application, and then the base plate for the air filter just pops right off. And again, one thing to note is I would tighten these screws back in, not monkey wrench tight, but just enough to where I'm confident that they're not going to fall down the throat of the carburetor, because that would suck. The next thing that needs to come off is the accelerator cable, because we're going to work on the linkage. So again, mine may be a little bit different than yours, but essentially there's going to be a screw that clamps on to the accelerator cable right here. So just loosen that bad boy up and just make sure your accelerator cable is free to move. Next, we're going to work on the actual linkage of the carburetor, and that is what connects the two carburetors together so they open at the same time and I get even acceleration. So I have what's called a Hemi, a Hemi joint linkage, which is different. I got it from Caddyshack. I like it a lot better than the original ones that came with these. The original ones had a ball and socket, so the ball was on the actual carburetor like this, and the socket would go over it. Didn't work very well, so this was like $60, and honestly it makes it way easier to adjust. So on these, there is just an Allen key right here, or an Allen head bolt right there, with a nut in the back on both sides. You can see it's a little rusty, so I'll clean that up and paint it. But gonna pull that off, and then going to take, if you can see, this bolt right there, my screwdriver, right there off. And that will allow the whole linkage to come out from behind the alternator stand. And again, just going to take the bolt and the nut, put it back through where it's supposed to go so I don't lose it. Now I'm just going to get the other side. Okay, so I'm probably not going to be able to get a shot of this, but what happens next is the spark plug wires come off, which is really easy. Just pop it off and pop it off the other one. You want to make sure that you mark them or know where they go. I know where they go, so I don't need to mark mine, but a little bit of masking tape never hurt anybody. So at the bottom of the intake manifold for the carburetor, right in here, there's a bolt on each side that mounts the intake manifold to the head. So it is on mine, it's a 13mm nut, and I'm just going to undo that and be really careful taking it off that I don't drop that nut and washer attached to it down into the cylinders, because again, that would be a terrible day. So gonna get that off. So there's two tools that I use to do this that are like my favorite things on the planet. One is a wobble head socket. If you don't have one, you need one. It's all of like $3, but it allows, if you don't have a straight shot at something, it just allows that socket just to turn a little bit. It makes your life so much easier. You have to pull so much less stuff just to get to something. So highly recommend that. Second is a magnet on a stick. 99 cents at AutoZone, but again, allows you to not tear your hands up trying to reach into something and get it out, so totally worth it. And that wraps up pulling the carburetors and step one to getting the engine out. Please like and subscribe if this helped you, and please comment below if you have any suggestions as to what I should do next. Thanks.